Welcome, Internet family. Toni Braxton and her sisters, Tamar, Traci, Trina, and Tawanda, along with their mom, Evelyn Braxton, have a hit reality series called Braxton Family Values. We'll be right back as we examine the marriage value that this family demonstrates. Stay with us.
Free clothes, free education, free electronics, free food, free everything. Can you afford free? Get free products for yourself. Give away free products to others. Get paid. It doesn't get any simpler than that. Visit our websites. Your pocket will thank you.
Welcome back, Internet family. Delisa and I were recently on vacation, and during that vacation, we had a little opportunity to watch some television. And we happened to turn on the television and stumble on a program that Toni Braxton has with her family called Braxton Family Values. If you don't know who Toni Braxton is, you can look her up on the internet. She's a very popular singer. Let me say that, though I was in the music business for several years, I don't know Toni Braxton, and I never met Toni Braxton. So I'm just speaking on what I saw, what we saw on this particular show and what they were showing us. So let me first say that we're not really fans of television, reality TV especially. Nothing that you see on reality TV is real. Everything on television is scripted, absolutely everything. Once you put a camera in front of somebody with a predetermined idea or goal of generating income, the persona, the attitudes, and the actions of all those on camera automatically become scripted. There's really no way around that. So this subject, though, that subject is really the subject of another video, so we're not going to deal with that. This episode is about how the situations with their father and their mother, from what we saw, the episodes that we saw, actually affected all the sisters in the family, because it's affected them deeply. Their father, Michael Braxton, is really the, let me say, the culprit in this. And we're going to deal with exactly what happened there. But we only saw 2 or 3 episodes, really. We couldn't take much more than that. So excuse us if we not really have all the information. But so we're just basing this on the information in the 3 shows that we saw. There may be other things to the story, but I think we got a pretty good idea of what was going on from what we saw. So the first thing that we all noticed was that none of the sisters all the sisters are married, and none of them have their husband's last name. If you look them up, you can look them all up by their last name, whether it's Traci Braxton, Tamar Braxton, they all have their last names. Now, this is show business, and being in show business, we understand that that's a show business thing. Toni Braxton, of course, she wouldn't change her last name when she got married because she became famous as Toni Braxton. So that's understandable. But the other sisters really are riding on the success of that because it's not really apparent what skills they really have so that they can venture out on their own. But that's really the whole impetus. The sisters want to venture out on their own, and not taking their husband's last name is not good for the husbands, even though it's never mentioned in the show that, their husbands are affected by that. The only husband that seems to really take care of his family is Tamar's husband. He seems to be able to do that because they have a very, very nice home, and don't know really what the husband does. I haven't watched enough of the show to really know what he does. I think he's in music. I really don't know. But this has affected the husbands in the way the husbands relate to the wives, because it seems as though all of the sisters are involved in all of the other sisters' businesses, their family business, and the husbands don't like it. And let me just get back to something real briefly. The fact that the sisters have not taken the husbands' names affects them just from the perspective of a man, because a man really likes a wife to take his name. Sometimes they can agree on that or not agree on that, depending on what profession they're in. And since the sisters are looking to go into show business even further, they've all dabbled in show business. Of course, Toni Braxton is mega successful, but it's affecting the husbands. And I don't think that they realize this. Again, even though the show doesn't mention this, but again, this is show business, and all the sisters have aspirations in music. So whether it's real or not, all of the husbands seem to have challenges with their wives as well. They're either divorcing or they're in the process of divorcing, except for Tamar. She seems to be quite happy. Toni Braxton has divorced from her husband, and it all stems from something that happened with the father, and we're going to get to that in a second. So this really is is exploitation TV, because if you don't have any drama, you really don't have any show. If all the sisters were lovey-dovey and all the wives were going, if there were no marriage drama or family drama, then you couldn't really have a show, an effective show. So again, the episode that we saw was attempting to have the sisters bring the mother and the father together in Maryland to have dinner together after they had had a divorce. The father never showed up. He never showed up. He never called. He never did anything. And the father is, the mother and the father, Michael and Evelyn Braxton, are divorced. He's gone a separate way. So he has nothing to do with the mother in that sense, because the children are all grown. So he never showed up, and the sisters were very upset about that. Again, the actions of parents that happen in a marriage affects the children, because now his children want him to get together with the mother, just to have a dinner and to see, if they can talk about what happened. They're not going to get back together again because the father's already married. And we're going to deal with that in just a second. So the sisters absolutely adore their mother. And they're kind of trying to reconcile why their father did what he did. What did he do? The father actually had an affair with one of the parishioners. He's a minister. And the mother's a minister as well. And he had an affair for 10 years. He was seeing one of his parishioners who he finally married. And this became a big problem because Tamar and Traci really loved their father. Not that they loved their mother any less, but they're really close to their father, a little bit closer than the mother. So they were trying to find out if what happened with their mother and father was really true. Did this really happen? And those two couldn't really deal with the breakup of their parents, and it's affected them in a dramatic way. Again, Evelyn Braxton is a minister as well, and the father said that the reason why he had the affair was because he felt lonely and he couldn't talk to his wife, Evelyn. Now, understand that he has 6 children, 5 girls and a son. And he says he's lonely. All he had to do really was communicate. Now, I'm sure there's other factors involved there. And, we're not using talking to your spouse as the be-all and the end-all to solving any problem. But it goes a long way into solving a problem, because you at least get to know what's going on, and you can deal with it if you know what is going on. But he said he couldn't talk to his wife. He felt like, he was lonely, and so he started an affair because he felt that the woman he was having an affair with was talking to him, and he could deal with her more effectively than he could deal with his wife. But what he did was he failed to take in consideration the effect that it would have on his family, especially his 5 daughters. He didn't care. The biggest question that his daughters had was, when did Daddy change? Let me say something that I hope the Braxtons will hear sooner or later. I doubt they'll hear it, but I hope that they will hear it. The Braxtons are suffering from an acute delusion that places them in a peculiar predicament, which has them thinking that their father somehow changed 10 years ago when he started seeing another woman. And this dilemma stems from the fact that they do not realize that their father did not change. He became more of what he always was when he had enough money. He had enough time for his activities. He was presented with an opportunity, and he had what he thought was a solid excuse. That's all he needed to become what he was. He already was. Because if he wasn't that, the man who would do that, who would step aside on his wife, he would have never done it. Right? But the circumstances now that presented themselves with all the other ingredients there put him where he felt he could do what he needed to do. Daddy never changed. He just became more of what he already was. His excuse being, again, that he was poor, is not that he was lonely and he couldn't speak to his wife, is not a good excuse at all. So Now remember, they got married when they were 18. If you didn't know that, they got married when they were 18. They had Toni when about a year after. They had 6 other children, and you can still be lonely in that situation with all those people around because you want to be able to speak to your wife. But how do you deal with it? You talk to your wife. He hadn't realized that he had changed and his wife had changed over that time period. And when you don't make the adjustment for the changes, then you fall into a situation that presents itself right here as what we see. So if he again wanted to be able to make the different adjustments that need to be made so that he could really deal with his wife, he would have made those adjustments. And we're not really dealing with Evelyn. We're dealing with the husband. The husband is the fixer. He's the house band. It is his responsibility to make sure that everything stays the way it's supposed to stay and the house stays intact. So we're not looking at what Evelyn may or may not have done. The husband is responsible for fixing whatever goes wrong. So what do we see here in wrapping up? We see here what happens when parents or a parent is unconcerned with what they're involved in and the activities that they're involved in that can separate the family on a permanent basis. We see the effect that these activities have or could have on their other children individually, their children with each other, the way they deal with each other, and their children and their spouses. We see what happens when parents are not taking responsibility for the wrong choices that they have made. And we certainly see that putting all this on a reality show certainly doesn't help your marriage at all. That's probably the worst thing that you can possibly do. But for money and for drama, they got a show and they're being paid. But it's not a good situation. But we hope that we know they're not going to be able to fix it, but the children seem to be dealing with each other, and we wish them all the best in the future. So thanks for joining us for this issue of Love Chose You. Please join us for next week's episode. And the title of that episode is Gay Okay? You're not going to say what you think we're going to say. We'll see you then. Remember, Love Chose You.